Back again with another episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where you submit your bike related problems, questions and queries down there in the comments section, and I do my very best to help answer them so you can go out riding your bike and enjoying yourself as soon as possible. So if you've got a problem, leave it down there in the comments section. Anyway, let's crack on with the first question this week, and it comes in from Sepa Durnez, who says, "Dear John, if I would buy myself a carbon wheel set, do I need another method for changing my inner tubes, or is it the same as my alloy wheels?" Right then, Sepa, exactly the same method as you would use on normal wheels, but something to consider if you're using metal tyre levers or the really old-fashioned method of using some old spoons underneath the tyre bead to get them off. Don't do that, because it could in fact score a carbon fibre rim. Instead, use some plastic levers. Method exactly the same though, nothing special, there's no wizardry involved with that. However, a little bit of a tip here, what I would advise is to always use some talcum powder inside of the tyre. So put some in there, don't be shy, but don't also go overboard with it. So put a couple of shakes in there and then simply rotate the tyre around, while it's mounted onto the rim, just to fully cover it, and then it's going to make fitting an inner tube just that little bit easier. And when it comes to removing it, a little bit easier too. This question comes in from Techno Cyclista, who asks me, have I come across any wheel bags that would be suitable for checking in on a flight? Techno has done some looking around so far, but with no success. Found one, but it seems discontinued. Oh, good question, because some baggage handlers out there, they can be a little bit rough, can't they? And others can be absolute angels. However, that one that you say is discontinued, I wonder if it's from the same company I'm thinking of. That was B&W, not BMW, B&W. I think it was a German company. They used to make a rigid wheel box. Absolutely great, just like a rigid bike box, but smaller and for your wheels. Can't find it anymore though, so if anyone does know of a rigid one out there, let me know in the comments section. Personally, I would be tempted to choose a cardboard box, so something that a brand new pair of wheels would come in, rather than a soft bag, because a soft bag is really going to get, open to being battered around. So a cardboard box, reinforce it laterally, use some plastic, something like that, also some foam in there. A little tip here actually, you could in fact use an old television box. That's something a friend of mine did, because he thought it would make the baggage handlers take a little bit more care with it if they thought a TV was inside of it. I don't know if they did or not, but it's worth a go, isn't it? And the next one comes in from Bug Boy. Bug Boy wants to know, how would I compare latex tubes to tubeless? In Bug Boy's mind, the weight savings are similar, yet tubeless has the added benefit of less flat. Poke some holes in this theory, pun intended. Ooh, good question. I'm currently a little bit undecided on tubeless on the road, purely because the tyres I like to use don't actually come in a tubeless variety to me as of yet. And something I find a little bit irritating about a tubeless tyre is the fact that if you were to puncture and your tyre didn't seal, and you then refitted it with an inner tube inside of it, and you already used your CO2 cartridge to try and reseal the tyre and try and get it to reseat onto the rim, then generally you need to use CO2 again to actually pop the tyre into place. And if you've already used up that CO2 canister and you don't have another spare one with you, you could have a bobbing tyre on your ride home. Yeah, I know it's very unlikely or quite unlikely, but I still can't help but get that weird scenario out of my mind. Whereas a latex tube, yeah, they do require inflating each time you ride because the tube is actually porous, so it leaks air. But I don't see that as so much of a problem. However, ultimately the choice is yours. They both have low rolling resistance. Obviously, you are saving a little bit of weight compared to a standard setup. But yeah, the choice really depends on whether or not the tyre that you want is available in tubeless or not, in my opinion. Next up is Kevin, and Kevin asks, "Hi John, you're a legend." Well, actually, he's not asking, he's just telling. Kevin's built up a bike with used parts. The wheels that they got are a pair of Bontrager TLRs. When they're freewheeling, it's really quiet. Is that normal? Right then, Kevin, without actually looking at the wheel itself, it's very hard to diagnose that problem. But it could well be that the ratchets within the freehub body and the hub shell are designed in such a way that it's going to give you silent or very quiet freewheeling. Now recently, there is quite a trend, it seems, for people to have this desire for loud free hubs so everyone in villages wide can hear you approaching. Personally, I don't like that. I like to have a nice quiet free hub. And I'm pretty sure that those TLRs from Bontrager are actually designed in such a way that it does have a nice silent one. Could well be though that the freehub ratchets are not possibly engaging correctly, and that's what's giving it that quiet sound. But unless your freehub's skipping, then it's more than likely the design to be just a little bit quieter. And we've got Tayrim next. Now Tayrim has a 1x11 on a classic light speed. I do like a classic light speed, by the way. Now it was designed obviously for a 2x setup, but Tayrim has put a narrow wide chainring on the outer side of the chain set. So remember, it is a 2x chain set, so there's 2 positions. So effectively, he's put that narrow wide chainring where the big chainring would be. But if they move the ring to the inner slot, so the inside of the Spider, will the top end gears become inefficient or more prone to wear and tear? The outer slot is absolutely fine, but the chain drops when spinning backwards in the 32 tooth sprocket. Right then, don't worry first up about that chain coming off if you pedal backwards, because you pedal forwards, don't you? But it's more than likely coming off there because of the angle it's running at. So actually mount that wolf tooth narrow wide chainring on the inside of the chain set instead, so where your standard small chainring would be. And I'm pretty sure it won't be doing that anymore, even when you pedal backwards. As for loss of efficiency or anything like that, it's probably between about 1 or 2%, so very, very low. And also you've got to consider how much time you actually spend in the extremes there, so either the 32 or the 11 at the other side. So I wouldn't worry about that too much and the loss of power or anything like that. More importantly is that your gears work all okay. Next we've got CS. CS, they pop up from time to time in the comments. Good to see you again. John, did you ever follow up on your 1x conversion? I kept dropping my chain to the outside when I wasn't using a narrow wide chainring on a Dura Ace 7800 setup with generic 50 tooth 10 speed ring and a few removed chain links. However, CS then put on a 50 tooth narrow wide chainring and they haven't dropped it yet. They mounted the 1x on the outer ring since where they live is flat, and they rarely have to go to the top of the cassette, so the really low sprockets there like the 32 or such like. Now, yep, another 1x. I never did follow up on that, did I? But after several hundred kilometers riding over pretty rough terrain, I must say, yeah, with that narrow wide chainring, it never fell off once. I was really, really impressed, and I wasn't using a clutch mech, remember, because that was a Campagnolo Chorus setup I had. So yeah, absolutely loved it, and it's good to see that you're having the same success as I'm having. Next up is Chintan, and Chintan says, "Hi John, love the show. I've had my inner tube in the front tyre for more than a year without a puncture, so it was opened only a couple of times. They've changed the tyres now and noticed some powder-like substance inside of it. Their question is, does the inner tube also have a lifespan and should they be changed, or is it okay to keep them running if they don't have a puncture?" Right, well, guessing an inner tube will have a lifespan. Exactly what though, I don't know, because rubber does tend to perish. If you haven't got a puncture though, I wouldn't go changing it unless it's showing obvious signs of perishing, so splits or such like. I mean, if you've got a split in an inner tube, you are going to have to replace it. But that powder, I've noticed that actually on quite a lot of tyres and tubes that have been fitted onto wheels for a long time. So something over 5 years, you find a bike, like I did that one on the street. When I took the tyre off of that rim, it absolutely stank. And also it was quite powdery inside of there. That could well be the sidewalls of the tyre gradually sort of crumbling apart, if you like, and going inside to give that powdery effect. However, it could well also be talcum powder, which is something I always recommend to apply to an inner tube as well as the inside of a tyre before fitting. But yeah, as for a lifespan, I really don't know. Someone out there will know, I'm sure though. And the penultimate one this week comes in from Max Schubiger, who says, "Hi John, I worked on my carbon road bike and it took me several days as I could only work on it during the evenings. During those 4 days that he was working on it, I left the frame clamped in the repair stand. Not a problem, right? Cheers." Right then, Max, providing you didn't over-tighten an actual frame tube itself, which I hope you didn't, hopefully you clamped the seat post, there's not a problem at all. You could leave it in there for years, I imagine, and nothing would happen. Just be aware though, because you did say you clamped the frame, I'm hoping you mean you clamped the seat post. If you did clamp the frame, you're gonna do that with such little pressure, so don't go clamping it really, really tight. I never forget working in a workshop and a rider rushed in in such haste because his gears weren't working, and he put his bike into the stand and he just clamped it on the seat tube. He clamped it so hard, he crushed the seat tube and effectively destroyed the whole frame. The language that was used that afternoon was very, very foul. So yeah, going back to your original point, absolutely fine, providing you haven't been using excess force. And the final one this week comes in from Bev Salisbury, who says they're looking at getting a new TT bike for next year, but was wondering about the size. The road bikes they use are a size smaller than what the sizing charts say they should use, because they like them smaller with a longer stem and loads of seat post out. They feel they handle better. Bev wants to know, should they get the same size as their road bikes, or is going for the next size down going to get them a better aero position? They don't mind being hunched in, as they used to ride 26-inch front wheel low pros back in the day. Oh, I remember those. Now, there isn't one answer for all here, because all bikes tend to have different geometries and such like, and I really wouldn't like to say, yes, go ahead and do that, because what works for one manufacturer may not work for another. Best bit of advice here is actually to pop into a local shop and check out the bike there that is in question if you can, or maybe speak to someone who actually owns one of those bikes and ask if you can have a go on it and see. Remember though too here, what's crucial to remember is that a super aerodynamic position isn't necessarily faster, because you also have to be able to ride in that position for the length of the race or event that you're taking part in. Sometimes just relaxing the angle that you're riding in may be a little bit less aerodynamic, but if you can push out more watts and still go almost as fast or just as fast, that's definitely worth considering rather than risking getting an injury. Sorry, I can't be more specific than that, but well, that is the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. Right, I do hope that I've been able to help answer and solve your bike related problem. There's some tough ones in there this week. Remember, if you've got help for anyone, let them know down there. And also, if you've got yourself a bike related problem, let me know down there, because I want to solve it so you can go out riding again. Remember as well to like and share this video with your friends. Share it with someone who's got one of those problems. A problem shared is a problem cared, or something like that. Anyway, also remember to check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com, where we have a whole heap of goodies for you to check out. It's coming up to Christmas. A loved one out there, they definitely want something. At least I reckon they do. And now for another great video, this time the latest episode of a Maintenance Monday. Click just down here.